They chased a rodent into the wilderness and found gold in its fur. Some men became millionaires. Others froze in the dirt. And one cut his own death short by ordering a friend to sew his scalp back on. 1803, Thomas Jefferson doubles his young nation overnight. The Louisiana Purchase, an empire of dirt bought sight unseen from Napoleon for $15 million. Jefferson wanted answers. He commissioned Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to lead the Corps of Discovery, find a water road to the Pacific, map the land, and plant the American flag. 1804. They pushed off upstream into a land known only through rumor and native story. Every mile was fought against the current of an unmapped continent. Their most crucial asset wore no uniform. Sacagawea, a Shoshone woman kidnapped as a child. Her presence told every wary tribe these strangers came in peace. Her knowledge kept them alive. The Rocky Mountains nearly destroyed them. Starvation, freezing cold, bone-deep exhaustion. Only the horses Sacagawea secured from her own people carried them over the spine of the continent. After 18 months, the prize. William Clark scrawled in his journal immortal words. Ocean in view, oh, the joy. They had crossed a continent and lived. Their return set off a national celebration. They had mapped a continent, met dozens of nations, and cemented America's claim to the West. But their reports lit a different fire entirely. Beaver. To the early 19th century, beaver pelts were oil. Their dense fur made the finest felt hats, and all of fashionable Europe demanded them. A rodent had become a fortune on 4 legs. One man saw the opportunity clearest of all. John Jacob Astor, a German immigrant who would become America's first multimillionaire. Where others saw beavers, Astor saw an empire. Astor founded the Pacific Fur Company. He gambled on 2 prongs, one expedition by sea, one overland across the wilderness. Both aimed at the mouth of the Columbia River. 1811. They built Fort Astoria, the first American settlement on the Pacific coast. The door to the west had been pried open a crack, but the venture was already cursed. The supply ship Tonquin was lost in a violent confrontation off the northern coast, and then blown apart, vessel and crew, in a single titanic blast. Astor's fortune was burning before it began. The overland party fared no better. Wilson Price Hunt's men lost their way among the canyons and rivers, suffering horrific losses to starvation and cold. The wilderness was collecting its toll. Then came war, 1813, with British ships closing in during the War of 1812. Astoria was sold to the British Northwest Company. Astor's Pacific dream was finished, but the door stayed open. The true conquerors of the West were not empires or companies. They were individuals, the mountain men, tough, solitary, half-wild, men who mapped the wilderness one beaver stream at a time. Their archetype was Jedediah Smith, explorer, businessman, devout Christian who carried a Bible into the deepest wilderness. He neither drank nor swore, and he would walk farther than any of them. 1822, William Ashley posted a call for enterprising young men to ascend the Missouri for the fur trade. Among those who answered the advertisement was Jedediah Smith. Their lives were defined by brutal hardship, standing waist-deep in ice water at dawn, setting traps with numbed fingers, days of solitude, hunger, and the constant nearness of death. 1823, in the Black Hills, a grizzly burst from the brush and took Smith's head in its jaws. It broke his ribs and tore his scalp, an ear nearly free of his skull. He should have died. Smith stayed calm. he ordered his comrade Jim Kleiman to sew his scalp back onto his skull. When Kleiman balked at the dangling ear, Smith told him to stitch that too. They had no surgeon, only a needle. Within weeks, Jedediah Smith was back on the trap line. For the rest of his life, he wore his hair long to hide the scars. The wilderness had marked him. It had not stopped him. 1824, Smith's party rediscovered South Pass, a broad, gentle gateway through the Rockies. They were hunting beaver. Without knowing it, they were blazing the highway every settler would follow. Once a year came the Rendezvous, a wild, roaring trade fair where a year's pelts bought a year's supplies. Liquor flowed, contests raged, and legendary lies were told. Fortunes were won and lost in a single drunken afternoon. This was where the beaver fortunes were paid out. A good season could make a man rich. A bad one left him in debt to the company store. The mountains gave generously and took everything back. 1826, Smith pushed where no American had gone, becoming the first to cross the Mojave Desert into Spanish California. He was no longer just a trapper, he was an explorer of empires. 1827. He became the first American to traverse the Sierra Nevada. Smith had now bracketed the West. Desert, mountain, and coast. No man alive knew the land between the oceans better. For every fortune, there was a frozen grave. The mountain men died by the score. To starvation, to the cold, to the rivers and the cliffs. The wilderness asked a blood price for every beaver it surrendered. 1831. Smith turned to the Santa Fe Trail. On the dreaded Cimarron route, the water vanished. Desperate and alone, the greatest of the mountain men rode out ahead to search for a spring. At a dry hole on the Cimarron, Smith met a band of Comanche warriors. He fought, but he was alone. There, at 32, the man who had crossed deserts and mountains died in the dust. His body was never recovered. By the 1840s, the beaver was trapped out, and silk had replaced felt. The mountain man Arab faded into legend. But they had done their work. They had kicked the door of the West wide open. Next time, on How the West Was Won. The Santa Fe Trail and a hunger called Manifest Destiny. The lone trapper gave way to the wagon train. The beaver fortune was spent, the frozen graves forgotten. But the trails they cut would carry a flood. Next time, on How the West Was Won. American eyes turned greedily toward Mexican lands and a sparsely settled province called Texas